Hello and welcome to my classroom. In this video, I'll share how I was able to design my December standards-based bulletin board display and model how I prepared student commentary. Here are the materials I used. I used die cuts to express the phrase, "There's snow, better time to multiply," to title my board. This captures both the winter theme of the board as well as inform readers of the skills that students are learning. I also have copies of the student work and evaluating rubric. I used a pile of number line sentence strips to use as the border for around the board. To add visual appeal, I added snowflakes and small baggies that tie into the open-ended response question students are using. I was able to grab these at the dollar store. I also used wrapping paper to add visual dimension and appeal for this month's board, also purchased at the Dollar Tree. I enjoy showing the instructional aids that students are using as they perform their work, and so I also like to display these as well. Well, let's begin. To provide a quick look into how I'm able to provide students with feedback on their brief constructed responses during their individual conferences, as well as for using their responses for standards-based bulletin boards, both in and outside of the classroom. I have a writing prompt here that students used as an assessment for multiplication. The prompt on the BCR, which is an abbreviation for Brief Constructed Response, is Katie gave 7 of her friends a bag of candy. Each bag had 8 pieces of candy. Step A, how many pieces of candy did Katie give to her friends? In step A, students then would go ahead and be provided with time to use any type of strategy to come up with an answer. And so the student here provided their answer of 56 and then also included a model as well. And step B is where they get into the providing a reasoning or an explanation for their response. Step B says, explain why your answer is correct Use what you know about number computation in your explanation. Use words, numbers, and or symbols in your explanation. And this was the student's response. They're scored on a scale of either 0, which is incomplete, or the response is completely off topic, a score of 1, which indicates that it is a work in progress. It's at the basic response level, or a score of 2, meaning that their explanation clearly demonstrates that they have mastery of the skill that's being assessed. The response for this question, the student wrote, "Here is the model I use to help find my product." And then there is a model included here. It's a circle, 7 circles with 7 dots inside of each circle. She continues by saying, "So first I had to draw 7 circles because Katie has 7 friends. Then I had to put 8 pieces of candy into each circle. So then I had to add the 8 pieces of candy, which is 56. That is how I know my product is correct." Now, for this student's response, I have a BCR mathematics rubric that I created. This is on my website, the classroom website. It's www.missdanielsclassroom.edublogs.org. And I modified this from my county's rubric, which I felt was a little too, it was wordy, to be quite honest. And it was filled with, it was a little vague for students to understand as well. So I modified the rubric by saying that there are 3 look-fors in each BCR response. They need a magic sentence starter, math vocabulary, and a model. So for the math sentence starter, this is something that I incorporated into the rubric to help the students to initiate that writing process. Sometimes students are overwhelmed with how to start their writings. And so we have a generic phrase that we use that helps them to get started writing, since a lot of times their BCR responses are timed. And it also helps them to look for how to use the information given in a prompt to create sentences. The next criteria is to include math vocabulary that is specific to that skill being addressed. I'm looking for either 2, 3, or 4 appropriate math vocabulary words. And also they need to include a model. The model needs to use the appropriate symbols, drawings, or pictures to support their answer. And so when looking at and when writing commentary, it's important that the commentary be specific for the student. It needs to indicate how did they meet the skill that's being addressed, or how did they address the standard. It also needs to be pretty concise. We're not looking for something that's extremely wordy. We want to make sure that the writing to the student is impactful and it's something that they understand and can use in future writings. And also needs to reference specific words or phrases or models that the student used that help them in being able to address the standard in a sufficient way. And so the feedback that I was able to provide for Teresa's response, I always like to start off with some type of kudo word or phrase. And so I said, "Teresa, great job. Your response clearly shows and tells," because she had both a model and wonderful explanation. "Your response clearly shows and tells how you were able to find the total of candy pieces. I liked how you explained the model you drew, and when you said, quote," and now I am referencing exactly how the student wrote it. There were a couple of errors in spelling, but for BCR responses, it does not count against them. They're not penalized. So I quoted her writing and her spelling. I said, "I like how you explained the model when you drew, and the model you drew, and said, quote, I had to draw 7 circles because Katie has 7 friends. Then I had to put 8 pieces of candy in each circle. Your explanation tells step by step how you got 56 as your product. Fantastic." And so this would be an example of the commentary that I provide. This would be something that in most instances is done during a small group or one-on-one conference with students. And so they would be there as we discussed how their writing compared to the rubric and their understanding of the task. And then I would just go ahead with the sticky note and place that right on their work to either display then on the bulletin board or for them to keep or for them to put into their portfolios.